Hey, good morning, guys. It is time for Coffee Talk. I wasn't going to do one this week because I should be, if all is going well right now, on a plane headed for vacation. So it's actually Saturday morning, but I do have my coffee, and you will notice that this fantastic unicorn of a beast in my garage here, I have finally finished the 3 Mark on the Churchill Gun Carrier. The Churchill Game Carrier. Look at that beauty. 3 marks on that thing. Man, that was quite the quest, actually. And that's what I want to talk about. But first, we're going to talk about the upcoming patch that's currently in common test. There's a couple interesting things on that I want to note for you guys. And then we'll get to the Churchill Gun Carrier. I'm going to show you the last game on that thing and have a little discussion about bad tanks in World of Tanks and how some of them have been left to languish and what the effect is of those tanks on the game in general. Also, I think at the end of it, we'll have one more gameplay where I'm a hacker, apparently, so I've been accused of being a hacker, and I'm going to show you the game where that happened, and we're going to discuss a little bit about how at a certain amount of skill, it's indistinguishable from hacking for most people in this game, but we'll break down that game, take a look at it, and I'll show you the love note I got from old Zodiac019 right here. So, a little bit different for the coffee talk today, but we will start off with the patch notes, which I think are kind of interesting. So grab your coffee. Hope your Sunday's going okay. So there you go, pop-up coffee talk. Let's move on. All right, here is the article on the portal. Talks about 1.6 common test coming up. We're going to break down to where it just gets into the actual verbiage here. Here we go. All right, main changes. So personal missions are going to be tweaked. In general, I looked them over. They're getting easier. Not all of them, but things for the 279E, for the Object 260, and I think a couple for the T55 and the Chimera. Those are getting a little bit easier. So those personal missions, check those out. That's a good thing for those of you who are chasing those, and I happen to be chasing those myself right now. Vehicle customization is going to get some additions. The interface is going to be easier, apparently. I haven't messed with it. I don't know how true that is, but it has been a little wonky trying to figure out how to put things on and off. And sometimes you just have to back all the way out and restart. It was very annoying how they did it. Frankly, I never actually... It was so irritating that I didn't get in and figure it out. I'm quite sure once you worked with it for a while you'd understand, but it did seem like on occasion it would lock up or get into a loop or somewhere where you just couldn't get out without getting out of the customization part of the garage and coming right all the way back in. So hopefully they have sorted that thing out pretty well. There's some bigger decals apparently coming. Rectangular decals for tier 10 and 8. I don't know exactly what that means. There's a picture here of well, there's that one there, and then there's, where to go? Well, what is wrong here? What has happened? I have no idea. There was a bigger picture of a 4005 with a giant Brit flag on there, so I've lost the bubble on that. Anyway, there's I think an example of it. Much larger decal put on the front. Right now only for tier 8 and tier 9s. They tend to do that when they're rolling it out, just putting it on for a couple tiers before they break it down for everything. Obviously the work on all the models in the game takes time, so that's more than likely why they break that thing down. The big news, though, one of the big pieces of news is disabling friendly fire. So this is coming, folks. I don't think anyone's going to stop it. It's very unfortunate. I don't know what to say. It is just purely dumbing down the game. I am completely and utterly against this. It's not going to stop me from playing the game. I feel like the game's going to be less for it. I understand the reasons for it. I do know that people are irritated about taking team damage and the trolling and all the things that go along with it. And while I completely understand that, I'm going to be quite honest with you. And you've seen me stream, right? And I've showed you miserable Mondays. You've seen my videos. It happens, but if you've watched me stream, it's not even really once a stream. Maybe once a stream if you count accidental shots. I don't know. The times I shoot people, you've seen it on stream, is less, more than likely, but always accidental on that. I just don't know what to say. It just feels like it's turning the game into even more of an arcade mode where you just really don't have to think. Just keep shooting the gun at the bad guy. You know, there were tactics involved where you could get in and amongst enemy tanks and you would start to spoil or at least make people think about their shot so they don't hit a friendly. That was a tactic. That's something you did last minute as a desperate gambit, and it could work. Now they're just going to fire away. It's not going to matter. They're not going to care. You may find that to be a good thing. I'm a little bit flummoxed actually, but I'm not surprised. Disappointed, but not surprised, because the game has been going that way for years and years now. When they first developed it, it was a very kind of hardcore PvP tank game. Every tier saw every tier. Get good, get smashed in the face in your T1 by a tier 8 or whatever. And then it's been slowly but surely had training wheels put on it. That's all that you can say. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be celebrating this, and I got it, I do. But I just hate this with a burning passion. I just think it's a terrible idea. So it was interesting though, because it says friendly fire and ramming disabled, and this is only in standard and counter assault and grand. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, so it's not in Clan Wars. So now new people who are training up in randoms to learn how to play the game and they'll play in Clan Wars are going to come in with the habit of just blasting away because they're used to not hitting their friends. But then in Clan Wars you are. What? What's talk about negative transfer and negative training. I don't know. And that's just obviously a small issue, but it is one, right? That's something that will happen. So reworked sound effects on direct hits received from allies. That's something I did notice. How annoying would it be for some guy with a fast-firing gun to be just shooting at you all game? Bang, 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 hearing that, seeing the direction indicator. So they thought of it, good on them. They're going... Reworked, I hope, means disabled. If they hit you, it doesn't matter, that you don't hear it. Otherwise, you're going to get some trolling with that. But what I thought was really interesting, improved the system of penalties for causing damage and stunning allies. Improved in that you removed the damage, or improved that if people do shoot you, you don't take damage, but they get marks against them? Now that would be interesting. So there's no details in here on that. Potentially that could help with my concern that when you're driving around in the enemy and the guy that's far away is blapping away at his own guys, not worried that he's going to damage them, trying to get a shot on you, does that mean that if he does hit his friendly tanks that it will accrue some kind of ban at some point? So that would be very strange for me, right? So the team damage is turned off, but if you hit them, you can still be banned? That might be the direction they're going. We'll find out. This is common test, so there's not enough info there for me to make a call on that. Very strange. All right. Watt Premium account. This is good. They are reworking the way that bonus, the ×3 bonus, the 5 that you can do a day, 5, so that it works correctly with the crew. So it works like regular XP, because what it's been doing is just going to the tank and not to the crew. So you can read through that, but basically it works exactly as it would regular XP, and I think that's a great idea. Thank you for that. Maps. Made some balance changes to a spotting position on the Malinovka map. Oh man. Remove the trees that prevented the northern team from spotting enemy vehicles. Removed the trees that prevented the northern team from spotting enemy vehicles. I don't know where that is. What northern team? Unless they're talking about coming down off the hill, and then is it the east side or the west side that they're changing? I'm not sure what's going on here. Wait a minute, is Malinovka north-south? Maybe it is north-south. Remove the trees that prevented the northern team from... I don't know where that is. All right, changes to wheeled vehicles. Interesting. Optimized performance of the engine modes. They removed the slight pause, changing from rapid to maneuver. Why? As if the wheeled vehicles needed more maneuverability. When running into an obstacle, it will be easier to regain control. I think that has to do with getting kicked out sideways and losing all your speed, or just simply spinning. That happens quite a bit when you hit some of these obstacles. I don't know how you would fix that. I'm not sure what that means. Optimize performance of the movement physics. Now this is the one that had my ears perk up a little bit, like, performance of the movement physics. Does that have to do with the fact that they bounce everything while they're hauling ass around? Don't know. You can disable the speedometer. I didn't like the speedometer right next to the tank because it looked like, and when it glowed, if you just sort of glance at it, a lot of times it looked to me like a 6 cents icon going off. I mean, it's not in the same place, but it's near the same place, and it's something that glows so it catches your eye. I never did really like that. Disabling auto aim, and you can change between rapid and maneuver in the countdown. Okay, whatever. Most of those are benefits to wheeled tanks. Did they need a bit more benefits? I don't know. They're small things, but they're all more or less helping them. Did they need more help? That's all right. Changing the interface, option of disabling vehicles in the client setting, duplicated indication of the damage notes. I have no idea what that means. Auto aim can be enabled, disabled. No idea what that means, once again. Sounds like stuff I don't use or don't notice. Team battle mode is discontinued. So if you liked team battles, too bad, they're gone. But they were in a mode that was in their competitive mode, the 7v7, or with, 6/8 and a 1, or whatever it came out to. It was kind of a strange mode, and nobody plays it, so it's gone. And then a couple vehicles got changed. So this, I like this. This is really, really interesting in a very small way. First, there's three things. First, the AE Phase 1, which was, I'm pretty sure is the frontline reward, Tier 9. For the UK, you're getting 4 new light tanks. The thing about these that I did not realize, and I read up at the top, is apparently they're about the size of an ELC Even 90. So we'll see how that works. That I did not realize. I knew they were small, but I didn't realize they were quite that small. So that will be interesting. Those things are hard to hit. They're nice and quick. They can get around. They can hide in a lot of bushes other tanks can't hide in. So I think these are supposed to be the new master ninjas in the game here. And then the last but not least, interesting to me, the STB1 has already been modified a little bit. Remember last patch it got changed. This company is really slow to change things, but occasionally they lose their minds and they do it immediately. And it appears that they've done it here with the STB1. Here's what's cool, or interesting, I guess. Change the whole traverse, now it's slower. Okay. Change the turret traverse, now it's faster. I don't know why. Change the gun elevation from 9 to 15, so it's got more lookup. 21 when the hydro pneumatic. Now here's the fascinating piece. Change the depression. And I've seen 2 numbers on this one so far. From -6 to -8. I saw -9 somewhere as well. So remember, on that tank, it's -6 degrees until the hydraulics kick in, and it gives you another 6 for a 12. And maybe it was more, maybe it was 14. But now they're saying it's -8 with another 6 for -12. Now you'll remember that I came out against this, and I actually have an STB1 review coming up, which is going to be OBE when this comes out. But for the moment, until the patch is out, and this may change once again, it is true that the STB1 is very difficult to use in the way the game is played, because ridge poking supposedly has this great -12 depression, but ridge poking requires maneuver and movement, and you have to be going so slow for the pneumatic to work, and it is wonky when it kicks in that your aim gets goofed up, that it simply does not work unless you're stationary or relatively stationary and hiding in the back, and you're not doing any of this kind of maneuvering, ridge poking, fighting, hold down stuff that we do in this game, which is what nearly the whole game is about. It simply did not work. It was one of those things, and we'll talk about this a little while later, especially with a Churchill Gun Carrier. It's one of those things that on paper, on the numbers, it looked really cool, but it simply didn't work in the game, and they have pretty immediately changed that. I would imagine a lot of their high-level players complained quite a bit about only having a -6 and then having to engage the pneumatics to get -12, and it simply was too difficult to work. Fascinating, really interesting to me that they changed that so fast. And I think it's actually another 2 degrees of depression. So -8. That's crazy. Depression from -6 to -8. 2 more degrees and it goes to 14. Now this says -8. Did it? Let me hold on with me because I could have sworn up here. No, I must have read it somewhere else. Again, the reason the numbers can be different is you can get different information from different sources because it's common test and it's clearly not written in stone yet. All right, cool. So that's what I wanted to talk about for the patch that's coming up. I have no idea when it's coming out. It's in common test, so it can't be more than a month. Maybe a couple weeks would be my guess. Two to 4 weeks at the most, maybe. And it should be out. I think everyone's looking forward to the British lights quite a bit. If you're going to go for the British lights, you want to go off of the Cromwell. You want to come off of the Cromwell. So let me show you that. Get rid of the second monitor here. I'm going to go to the tech tree, the Brits. This thing will break off from here at the Cromwell. And you can see I've already got 57,971 experience built up. Remember to do that. You want to go to the tank if it's deleted, and you want to unclick this so that all the experience you get on the Cromwell builds up on the Cromwell, and then you can use that to research. You can see that my Churchill GC game carrier has 50,000. That is only because I have every tank unlocked. So I just use the ×3 button and it builds all of this credit onto this tank. With the new change, all of that would have gone to my crew like it does normally when you've got this thing clicked on. So there's 50,000 trapped experience. I can turn that into free experience for gold / money, but there you go. That's how that works. All right, let's move on to the game carrier. This is good stuff. All right, here she is. I'm going to show you the last game where I finally 3 marked it. It wasn't a fantastic game, but it does illustrate a lot of the problems with this tank. And what I really want to talk about is kind of bad tanks that languish in this game and why balance isn't just about numbers. It isn't just about numbers. And a lot of times it's just basically how the tank is designed or implemented into the game. So what did I learn from grinding out in about 100, 120 battles the Churchill Gun Carrier? Well, you know the saying, it's the player, not the tank? Churchill Game Carrier, it's you. It is you, not me. No, that still holds. If you're a good player, you're going to do well in any tank. But the capability of the tanks are where they are. So your ceiling as a good player is going to be limited by the tank, which is why many of the very best players, or a lot of players, gravitate towards the good tanks. They want to do well in the game, and tank X is better than tank Y. It just objectively is. But why is that exactly? What makes it that way? Because the Churchill Game Carrier here has a really, really good gun for Tier 6. But that is completely and utterly overshadowed by it being an absolutely horrendously bad gun carrier. All right? So its ability to put that gun into play in World of Tanks is atrocious. I mean, it is terrible. And there's actually a few things they could do to make that a little bit better. But if you look at the numbers, you go, well, we can't really improve this thing's other stats too much. Otherwise, this overpowered gun will be too good. And that's true. You don't want to make it 60-kilometer-hour a tank that reloads every 3 seconds as a ridiculous example. Clearly, you don't want to do something like that. But you can work around the edges of it. Some tanks are just bad. And like I said, it's not about the numbers. The meta and how the game plays matters for tanks. This is a great example here. So let's look at the design of this thing and what makes this thing so bad with such a great gun. What I want to do first, though, is we're going to go ahead and do a quick comparison, kind of like a mini review right here. Here's the Churchill Gun Carrier. It is run around 220 pen. That is head and shoulders above anything at Tier 6. Pretty amazing, actually. In a 280 Alpha, which is hard hitting. And you might go, wow, that's pretty amazing. And it's got a decent DPM. It doesn't really hurt itself too much. One of the balancing things they'll do with high alpha guns with high pen is they'll give it a slightly lower DPM. This one's okay. It's not up there at Nashorn level, but it's 1928. That's certainly usable. The gun handling is actually pretty good. 1.93 on the aim. Dispersion's down there at 0.31. You put some food, brother in arms, some other things on this, and all of a sudden you've got a very accurate gun. But what's the problem? Well, the problem is that several things. First, the gun traverse limits are 5 degrees each side. It is so difficult to track anything moving right or left with this. Unless you are fully aimed in, zooming in straight ahead, you're going to have a hard time, and you'll note that a little bit on my replay. 2, the mobility is horrendously bad. It's not quite AT8 bad, but it's 25, and I don't know if I ever saw this thing get to 25. It takes forever to accelerate. It does not turn very well. It's atrocious. So bad. Number 3, its camo is almost lowest in class. It's not as bad as a Nashorn, but it's second worst. So all those things are working against a TD to be effective. The design of the tank is interesting because the gun, while it's got good depression, I want to say it was -8, look where it is mounted on the hull. If you look to the side, it's very low. The ARL has a similar problem, attempting to look over any of the rubble that's built in this game, which tends to have a kind of standardized height of about here, so that other tanks can go hold down that have a much higher profile. But when you're talking these two in particular, and the ARL's worse off because this gun is lower, but this gun is so low that you're going to find it sticking into all kinds of rubble that's normally a hold down place for other tanks. It doesn't matter anyway because you've got this gigantic forehead that comes up over any terrain that you're trying to use hold down, and you can be completely picked apart before you ever get your gun online to somebody and just get munched. So yeah, I had to be very careful trying to do the hold down thing. It really just can't, unless you are hidden behind something like a bush or tree where you simply cannot be seen. So it's not really about just the numbers. You might look at the numbers on the Churchill Gun Carrier and go, well, they're not bad. I mean, look at this really fantastic gun. Let's work with that. And that's what I did. I did my best to position the gun in the right spot so the gun could actually do some work. But my goodness, in the way the game is played, that's extremely difficult with this tank. And just a few tweaks around the edges would help this thing out. A little more mobility, a bit better azimuth, maybe 8 to 10 degrees each side. And I think you've already improved this to a tank that can compete. Right now, it's actually last. Depending on which stat site you look at. Win rate, this is dead last at Tier 6 TDs. Just bringing up the rear completely. Dead last. All right, what else did I learn? Letting tanks languish. I didn't really learn this, but I'll talk about what I learned in just a minute. Letting tanks languish in this kind of state in your game is really bad for the game, because if some British tank fan came through the line, and he went up this line and went, oh look, I can go from tank X, which one was it that splits off to this thing? I can go to the Churchill 1, and then I can split off and I can get 2 different lines. So that's cool. So brand new guy goes through this and he goes, all right, so we'll go to the TD line and we'll do the heavy line, and then he starts playing the Churchill Gun Carrier. And he doesn't know much about the game other than he cannot do anything in a Churchill Gun Carrier. And it turns people off. It just simply turns people off. And that's unfortunate because it doesn't have to happen. Reference back to the quick change they did to the STB1, which is a pretty popular tank. Why is it that that thing can be changed that quickly, but this thing can't have any improvement? And I'm not just talking about the Churchill Gun Carrier. I'm talking about tanks across the board that are just bad, that have been languishing for years and years, that haven't been touched, that with just minor tweaks, very minor tweaks, could be made better tanks. A degree here, a degree there. Really, this game is a lot about very small changes to improve a tank. I don't understand why they can't do that. All right, so then the last thing I learned, in general, about 3 marking is that you need to min-max. You really do. You'll notice that my crew is okay, but not great. I don't even have brothers in arms. That would have helped this tank quite a bit. So I'm thinking a 3 skill crew minimum for any kind of 3 marking that you want to do. I got away with this because this is low tier, Tier 6. Okay, relatively low tier. So you can get away with a relatively bad crew, but in general, for 3 marking, you're going to want to min-max everything. I did use directives. I don't have one on there now. I did use food, so these guys drank a lot of tea and ate a lot of pudding. Shouldn't that be scones and tea? I mean, pudding and tea, is that really? Maybe then it was pudding and tea in good old World War II. So like I said, I used directives. I used large kits, I had all the equipment, and I I used quite a bit of gold, but I carried only 10. I don't know how many games I ever got over 10 shots in this thing. Not many. Some, but it tended to be 8 to 10 shots at best in this thing. And that was my setup there. All right, so there you go. Churchill Gun Carrier. It was an interesting journey. An interesting journey to get this thing 3 marked. And I did learn a bit about the game, and about some of the balance, and about some of the meta. Things I knew, but until you actually are fighting against it every game, you don't really think about it, because you're playing those meta tanks. You're playing those games that can play World of Tanks the way it's been designed. Not necessarily designed, but the way the players play it. Right? There's design and there's the way the players play it. So you've been raging around. You got the good gun depression. You got the hover medium Russian technology, doing all those things that you can do in the game. And then you play a tank that simply cannot do any of it. It has none of the capability that most players use in the game. And it really does open up your eyes a little bit to how the game's played, and how some and why some tanks just languish and are never touched. It is unique, I'm going to tell you that. It is unique. All right, let's get into the gameplay on this thing. And then we'll do one more where I am a hacker. All right, here we are on Glacier, spawned into the southwest. I turned the camera off so you can see the whole screen right here. And I'm going to head out and start looking for shots. But the problem is, you don't really go looking for shots in this tank. If you go looking for shots early, you get dead, because you just can't get anywhere, number one, that might afford a good shot. You can't defend yourself at all. And the traverse of the gun right or left makes standoff your friend, because if you get too close and you have to start spinning around, you're in big trouble. I got this map like 4 times in the last run here. I happened to do pretty well on it, but that had a lot to do with the enemy team being Muppets. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about. This thing cannot even get over here to cover the most obvious spot for one of the early shots known to man. I could not even get there. Most TDs have the speed to do that. This one does not. Now, I'm going to give props to my M44 buddies on this game. We're going to talk about that when we get to it. But you are completely early game reliant on your team to not disintegrate. If they disintegrate, you're in big trouble. And you have a very limited capability to help. Some maps you can get into certain positions. This one right here, though, all you've got is about where I am, looking for shots on enemy tanks that are foolish enough to get up and over. And I'm just going to miss into the rock. Looking at the Cromwell, the 5916 got up the hill, and the heavies are going around the heavy brawl. What I really need is for the heavies to either lose, but not so badly that they come around that corner and push south hard, or get forced back so that I can help them when the enemy team comes around the corner. And that's a horrendously bad plan. It's a terrible plan. You're completely relying on dumb luck, really, for that to happen. You can push over to the east side and try to help up in some of those bushes there. But again, if you get spotted, you're done. And there are 3 artillery. This thing is unbelievably vulnerable to artillery as well. It's just not very well armored. I was hoping this 5916 would come around the corner. Now, I want you to note my friend the 3001P. The 3001P is sitting at cap. His name is 0506_1. So, he's a medium. He is one of our top best mediums. He's a tier 6. We're all 6s, but the 3001P is a pretty darn good medium. And he's hanging out there with the Jackson. So just note his position. We'll get back to him in just a moment. The 5916 is lighting up all our heavies down there. 2 KV-85s, but they're not having a very good day. Facing an ARL, a KV-2. And oh man, that was just bad on me. I should have seen him coming. And again, now I'm not reloaded because I missed that snap. The Hellcat's coming up. I was hoping the 5916 would feel like he needed to back up. He gets hammered by the Hellcat, but the Hellcat's not going to survive this particular encounter. I'm like, oh man, I screwed that up. And there's 2 shots of damage I should have had. So I was looking at this as this was going on, and I'm thinking, well, that's it, because I was sitting at about 94.1% or so. And I'm thinking to myself, Self, you just blew it. At this point, all I'm looking for is enough to not lose any percentages. But we'll see what happens. You never know. Maybe they'll walk into me. We're staring at this. We've got the Cromwell working along the edges over there. There's a Su 100 sitting in one of their TD spots over there. And we have a medium that's pushed all the way across. The Excalibur hasn't moved very far either. I want you to note the Excalibur. We'll also talk about him in just a moment. So the Jackson and the 3001. There's one of my M44 buddies. He's moving around. I have no idea why he's moving so slow unless he's doing that on purpose. It's like he's in slow motion over there. And he heads off. So like I said, I am at this point just looking for the enemy to give me an opportunity. Now, one of our KVD5s makes what I thought was a pretty good move. He gets up here, but then he starts getting rocked. And I think the problem is the ARL has shots on him. It's just coming up and over that ramp. Then the 5916 and the T78 are both shooting him when he comes around the corner. And maybe even the Cromwell is shooting him in the back. And he goes up there full hit points and quickly comes away with no hit points. The other 85 dies. I see that happen. I'm thinking, okay, well, at this point, and our 85 is going to die up there in just a moment. At this point, I need to watch this corner. This is where my shots are going to be. And this is what I talked about earlier. If your team loses, then you may get shots as they come around this corner. The good news on this is it's got decent vision, and I am carrying binocs. So I'm going to go. I know this spot is here. So does everyone else in the world. And I know I can go ahead, get set up right here, and hopefully one of these heavies, the KV2 or the ARL, will come around this corner. My M44 buddy is smart enough to know he needs to leave this spot. Good on him. You got to like that when artillery has a clue. And now we're losing 5-7. Not in a great spot here. Not in a great spot. The Excalibur has moved up alone. And the 3001 is still hanging out. And now the bickering begins. We're yelling at the VK because he's camping. Just watch the chat. You probably already saw some of it. I get one shot on this guy. I get another shot on this guy. Doesn't quite die. I don't get spotted. That's a good thing. People are shooting at him. And he turtles up behind this rock. I also note that the 5916 is coming up. He gets spotted over here, so I'm going to back out. And down goes the ARL, so that's helpful. And look at this. We've got a T50-2. And here's me trying to use that azimuth. And fortunately, he didn't give me too much right to left. I do get spotted doing that. The T78 gets nuked by an M44. And then I've got the scout, and I was just hoping he'd come up and around, but he didn't. And now our camping 3001 is getting pounced on. I'm taking artillery fire, no surprise. And I know we got to get rid of this 5916. So I see him right there. He's goofing around. I'll come around. And it's just difficult to get online here. And fortunately, I'm able to come around the corner, line up, and fire. And now I'm slowly but slowly moving backwards. Trying to hide. The T50-2 is a big problem, and I don't want to get nuked by the KV-2. The KV-2 will pen this thing almost automatically. So we're taking a look. I moved around a bit. I think I'm actually going to take an arty shot here because the arty on the other side is smart enough to know I'm probably still sitting here. And we're down to, unfortunately, we lose one of our M44s, and we're down to me and the Excalibur. Me and the Excalibur. And I don't know if the chat has begun, but it will here in just a minute. There's that artillery shot I told you about. Now, I am going to move because he actually hit me directly. If he was paying attention, he'll have noted that there was no explosion. And so here's the 3001. Hey, Guido, wanna play? All right. Yes, I need to push an attack with my Churchill Gun Carrier. My concern is this T50-2. I'd love to get rid of him. I'm hoping he just comes up here and we can somehow take him out. And the KV-2, obviously, also a concern. The Excalibur is angry. He's doing a nice job there, though, keeping them busy. I'm glad he didn't get spotted. We're sitting here fight, and you just sit there, okay? Yes, that's true. I am, at the moment, just sitting here. We are down 8-11. 8-11. All right, so we're trying to find this KV-2. And now I'm thinking, all right, not great. There's the 50-2, and I'm really hoping somebody kills him off. He's moving my way, so we're going to spin around and see if we can't help. Down he goes. That frees up a lot of movement. Everything that's left has relatively short vision. So I'm going to get out of this spot. That's where I've been. The enemy team knows I've been there, and I'm going to move. There's not any real great sniper spots up here. That rock to my left with that bush is okay, but I think better of it because I'll have nowhere to go once I take my shot. So what I really want to do is go somewhere completely different, and it just takes forever to do that in this tank. Look at this thing crawling up the hill, and I'm going to actually take a bit of a chance. Now remember, I'm 3 marking this tank. I'm at 872, and that, look, Guido lives. Yes. Sitting there is the key, he says. It is, actually. Hold on. Hold my beer. Hold my coffee. Alright, so we get up here. We're just going to take a look. At least I have some cover on this thing, and I was hoping to find something maybe coming up this ramp. And like I said, I'm going to take a chance. I'm sitting at 872. That's going to keep my mark, probably lose a little bit, but not very much. So at this point in the 3 marking efforts, I'm in decent shape. If I can get 1 or 2 more shots, I will end up increasing a little bit, and I'll call that a win in this case. Obviously, I'm going to try to win the game, but I'd call that a win. Maybe you can find a tunnel to hide in, he says. Hey, Guido, maybe you can find a tunnel to hide. Okay, remember, this is the guy that died right there at cap, in a medium. All right. The Excalibur is still on top hit points, so good on him. Somehow he has managed that up there. That is a pretty mobile TD. So I'm watching this for a bit, thinking about it, and I said, all right, self, you are fine on the marks. It's not great, but the team sort of let you down. Let's take a chance, right? We're going to make a risky play. We're going to go somewhere completely different that they don't expect. And now the Excalibur is saying, stay hidden. And he's like, WTF. And you know, it's a good point. I am moving across the open. But let's think about this for a minute. The Excalibur, the M44 is there, so he's been watching. The other M44 is watching from up here. He can see some of this. The Excalibur is kind of covering all this area up here. So more than likely there's nobody down in here. Maybe in this area. Potentially up here, but where I'm going is over here where these bushes are. My biggest concern is getting across this, and I am covered up a little bit if they're down here. I'm not covered up if they're up on the edge. So maybe a couple of the Dicker Max and Nashorn might be here, but guess what? They are as unlikely to move around as I am, right? Because of the type of TD they are. So I'm looking at what we have. The KV-2 was last seen down in the heavy area. Because he hasn't been seen again, I'm sort of suspecting he's down in that area somewhere. The 2 TDs, one was seen near his cap, actually both were, and then all of a sudden there's the KV-2. And boy, aren't I glad I'm not right there right now. I keep going, and because I'm not lit, and then he gets hit, stunned, and tracked, I turn. I'm not lit. He has terrible view range, obviously, and I catch him just before he gets around the rock, and I'll back up, unspotted. Very good, so I'll go back here. Now, the bummer with this line is it's not thick enough to protect my rear, so I sort of back into it. I'm not willing right now to back into the bush, but then I have to, because if that KV-2 keeps coming, and I just do my best to get as much in that bush as possible with my rear spotting point sticking out behind me. Now, the question, of course, is the modeling of the bush. I'm pretty sure my rear end is definitely sticking out, but I don't know. So you'll see me checking 6. I'm hoping if somebody sees me, the Excalibur can take him down, and at least my death will have been useful. But the good news is I got another shot in and some spotting, and now I'm up at about 1,300 total, and that's definitely going to give me a little bit of a boost on my 3 mark. So good to go. I'm happy with that. At this point, I'd love to win the game, and I'm going to try to get as much damage and win if I can, but we're in a bit of a tough spot, especially since we're sandwiched here now. So I'm just sitting here waiting, thinking, all right, well, let's see what this KV-2 does. Or this guy. The Nashorn's making a move. I see him up there behind me. The Excalibur's fighting him. I'm thinking, all right, good, the Excalibur's got him. What I was hoping is once he showed up and started engaging, the KV-2 would come out into the open. The Dicker Max shows up. He starts getting beat up by the Excalibur, who's doing some great work up there. He gets hit by Art, he gets hit by the Dicker. He's behind the rocks. I have no shot on the Dicker Max. And the Excalibur ends up dying. So now I'm thinking, all right, this is not bad. And oh, lo and behold, the KV-2 makes a move. I'll back out till the bush is dark. Put a shot into him. And the Artie nukes him. And I get the spotting and the shot. And all of a sudden now, I'm up to about 1,700, and this is very definitely going to help my 3 marking session. At this point, it's 3 artillery, so now it's just a charge. We don't have a lot of time, right? Another problem with this tank is it's just not very mobile. I'm going to come down here. I'm not really sure. I didn't know if this M44 is trying to get in my way or what his plan was, but I'm trying to get up here, and he actually comes around, and then he clips me. I think he might have been trying to help me, but he actually screwed me over. I was sort of irritated, and I went, all right, I think he was trying to help me and not harass me. So I'll just change direction and we'll come up this hill. A great illustration of the terrible mobility of this thing. And remember when I talked about earlier that I win this because of a couple great aggressive M44 players. Look at both these guys. Good on them. One of their dudes is making a runner. This is perfect. Just straight on. Very good. Take him down. Look at the zigging and the zagging. But the other artillery apparently had seen those two and were shooting at them, and that's a great thing for me. So we're going to push in, and I'm up to 1,900, almost 2,000 combined damage. And we have a chance to win. We've got a minute. We got 2 artillery players that are doing the right thing, because had they both sat back, I would have never got close enough to light those guys up. I might have lit up the 13F thing. Based on where he shows up, he's right there. But probably not. Unfortunately, the other M44 kills one of ours, but our TX Oro gets in there and shotguns the F3. And then I'm looking at where the other M44 is, and I know I need to lean a little left because I know that there's some raised ground there, and I'm hoping he's right in there somewhere. All of a sudden, he comes out. So good on him, man. Making a move. 2 marked. Put a shot on him. Don't quite kill him. That's unlucky. A low roll. I may have actually fired HE there, I'm not sure. Just trying to get this azimuth sorted out. I did not want to miss, but good on him. Ends up killing the guy. Nice shot, TX Oro T. Well done. Definitely those 2 artillery players were a huge part of the win. The Excalibur was a part of that win. The one guy that was not really a part of that win is the VK 3001. And that was it, folks. 1982 in the damage, 296 assists. That was the 3 mark game right there. I thought it was kind of interesting as well with the different comm. And, you know, 3 marking requires, to some extent, a different kind of play. You can just play your tank, and if you do really well at it, you may just come up with a 3 mark. If you are actually going after the 3 mark, min-maxing is a thing, and considering all those things I talked about how I need to get damage here and there, becomes a thing. It really does. All right, guys. Awesome. And let's look at my hacker game. This is good, too. We'll bring that up next. When I woke up today and started up the client, I was greeted with the flashing message sign right here. And it took me a while to figure out which game this was. It was one of the last games I played of the night. After I 3 marked the Churchill, I started playing mobile tanks. I played a lot of scouts because I was tired of driving around in that TD, and I wanted to play some of the fun tanks that I enjoyed. So I got the Type 62 out and was sort of toying with the idea of doing a grind for the 3 mark on that. I was playing the WZ 131 and 132. Actually, the 132, I think I've 3 marked the 131 already. Just goofing around, bombing around in my light tanks. Went to bed. Come back this morning, open it up, and I find the flashing message from this guy here, this fella. And it says, reported effing clown for hacking. And I went, I don't even remember anything that I could have done that would have irritated people. And it took me a while to find the game. I searched around. It was probably the 4th or 5th last game I played of the night. So it wasn't the very last one. Took him a while, apparently, to send the message. I'm not really sure why. Maybe he was looking at the replay and determined I was hacking. I don't know. I'm going to show you the replay, though. We're going to discuss this, actually, because, like I said earlier, the thing about claims about hacking like this is oftentimes at a certain level of skill, playing against a lower level of skill, a very low level of skill or knowledge, or both, will be indistinguishable from hacking, right? Great play, essentially. I didn't say it very well, but excellent gameplay will often be indistinguishable from hacking depending on your knowledge and skill. Let's put it that way. So let's take a look at this. I tried to kill him with kindness. I just sent him a link to the replay, which I have uploaded. I told him I uploaded. I said I had a Twitch and a YouTube channel that I run vanilla, and I said if you're interested, I'll send you my YouTube channel. A lot of times I'll just send it, but this guy's very angry, so I don't want to send it to a troll who's going to come in and then start neg bombing everything. You know what I mean? Or causing a harassment. If he's interested and says yeah sure, then I'll send it to him. That's kind of how I'm playing that one. So let's move on to the replay itself and talk about this hacking accusation. Well, alright, I lied a little bit. It was the last game. I had forgotten about that. I was searching around for the guy in all of my last games, and I made an assumption on the tank he was driving, but it was the wrong assumption. He happens to be in a T-34-85, so M, right? So that is a premium tank. Now, whether he bought it or he did the recent tank rewards, but his account, I want to say, is less than 1,000 battles with his 57% win rate. So potentially a reroll or just somebody who's doing well early on. Run early Erlenberg. And I've spawned into the south. I'm moving up here on the east side. And I'm going to where a scout will get early shots. Alright, so we're talking about being a hacker and a good player. Immediately I position in a place I know I can get some damage. Can't quite. The T-50-2 makes what is a dangerous move, but is effective for pushing guys off this hill if nobody's up on the left. But now he's making a runner. Trying to get away, and we'll take a shot. We end up missing right there. I cover up just enough to where he can't spot me, and now I see this dude. Now I'm using bushes, right? I'm firing far enough back from these trees that I'm not going to get spotted. That's going to feel like hacking to people, isn't it? Knowledge of the game mechanics. We'll come over here. We're going to take another look. Can't quite see this guy. Backing up again. Don't quite have it. And fire into a blind shot into a guy who's not lit, although he was just lit. Using the bushes once again. Now, I'm also noticing over on the left side, I know that there's a fight developing always on this map over on the left side, so I have to be careful. Unfortunately, I missed that shot. I must not have had my hacking gone, and I got spotted, so clearly my hacking cloak was turned off. And I see the KV-2 looking at us. Why do I look over there? Because I got spotted. And one of the places you take hits in this spot, if you're not careful, is exactly from where the KV-2 is. The other thing I know about what's happening in the middle is we don't have a lot of tanks down there keeping those guys busy. That spot where he is, he should get wrecked, but we don't have enough guys over there fighting him, just the IS-2 and the T-20, so that's noted. I get spotted again. Why? Because that T-50-2 is raging around the ridge. He's doing what he needs to do to keep all of us lit, so his guys down there in the middle can get shots on us. Why do I know that? Because I'm a good player and I've done this a lot. I've played this game a lot. So I see this. Put a shot on him. He's looking up at the Pudel, probably. Looked like he was looking towards me. I know that T-50-2 is a problem. He's got to go, and I'm looking for shots on him. I don't want to YOLO him, and then I see him making a runner. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a miss. Clearly my hacks are not working. I'm going to try to lead fire this guy here, see if we can catch him. A little behind him, so not good, but I just stay with it. I'll turn on my hacking. There we go, lead fire. He slowed down just enough, and we get rid of that guy. That is hugely important. He had to go. And I can move back into my position. Now I know there's a leopard, I think. Yeah, a leopard down there. And then I see, here's my buddy. Good old Zodiac. He's in the bush. I miss. Where's my hacks? I should have used my hacks. Now that bush, there's a blind shot, sort of. He was lit, went dark. That area there and where this one is are the most obvious sniping spots ever. On either side of that building, in those bushes, that is where people go. It is known, right? It's not that hard to figure out. It is known. I get a shot on the back of the Leo. A little bit surprised I wasn't lit right there, so apparently my hacks were working on that one. There are some trees in between us, but it was fairly sparse. Again, it's all about the modeling of those trees and where the actual cover is in regards to the tree, but I see the arty out there. I'm thinking, ooh, if I can just get a little closer, I might get a shot on that guy. Kind of wish I had knocked that tree down, but I did. I'll just shoot a blind shot in there. And some of these went in. I'm going to end up with another 500 damage, so probably 3 of these blind shots were worth damage. One of them probably on the 13, whatever it was. One of them on the arty, and then one of the ones on the T-34-85Ms that I've already taken or will take went in for a total of 2,000 damage. And the team is now winning by miles. Just keep working this position, and now I'm starting to think, all right, I'm going to push up here momentarily. I'd really like the Leo to be gone because I want to get a little bit closer than him potentially. And I also don't want to go by with him alive and let him have a shot in my back. So I'd really like to see the Leo gone before I push the two T-30-45s and whatever friends he has. I'm glad to know that the E-25 is not in there. We do find the Su-100, who, by the way, is outside of the bushes. That's why he took a hit. We end up missing potentially. Don't know. That may have been one of the blind shots that hit. He went dark just as my shell got there, I think. Unknown on that. And the Leo is still alive. HT-6 is here. We've got a near-dead Tiger and a T-71DA. Looks like somebody's shooting in here. Potentially that was my buddy, the 3485M. Or potentially the 100 who got hit from this direction. Now I'm just playing a bit of a waiting game. We're trying to find if we can get rid of this Leo. E-25 gets into the backfield. Considered going back there, but there's plenty of hit points here. And now it's just about time to push. The only problem with the T-62, Type 62, is it's only got about a 180 alpha gun, so that 200 plus hit points is going to be hard to kill. He takes a hit. I know there's another one in there. I'll just take a blind shot. That clearly did not hit anything. Tried to use my hacks, but they didn't work. You'll note that it hit behind right there. And that's something a good player is going to do. He's going to shoot into known spots. Su-100 gets seen. He blows up. The other 30-45 went down that way. What do I know about that? Well, that's good news for me because that means, and now he's dead, but had he continued to live, I knew I could get up into the buildings area and only be fighting one of them immediately. But he's dead now, so I'm not fighting either one. There's a tree down. That tells me he's there. He's still goofing around in the same spot. I'm going to come up to his right because I know he's down in that area. And he shows not much SA because I come up and over. I hit him. I go by. Thinking, all right, I'll get the second shot on him. He dies. Filthy hacker. I have hacked my way to 1,200 damage, 81 assists. The artillery is going to miss because I've got my hacker shield on. I didn't even zing or zag or anything. Thank goodness, nothing happened to me there. All right, so good player. Why am I going up this hill? I'm going up this hill because I want a shot at the Hummel. So I need to clear my fire. I'll just put one into him. Down he goes. I'm going to come off this hill. I'm going to go straight across because I know the T-20 is on that other side. There he is. He's making a runner, and I'm hoping. I actually did that on purpose. Do you know why I didn't go? Know why I didn't take the straight line and go through here? Because that's deeper water. I used this better ground right here to cross. Now I'll go through the deep water at the shortest spot I can. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to come up, get my gun on, and then I'm going to fire before I'm fully zoomed. Why? Because I'm a good player, and I know that someone's going to kill him so fast. So I'll just take the chance that RNG works for me right there. There's no reason not to. Everyone's dead. That was the last hit points on the board. And I got it because I just accepted a less than zoomed in shot. So everything I did right there was calculated. From the position I went to the movements I made, all done for a reason, for a purpose. One built on the other one. One being influenced and what's the word? One being influenced by the other, informed by the other, and moving on. Does it always work? No. Sometimes you just get spotted and die. Sometimes the other team, because they have a vote, does a nice job and spoils what you're doing. But in this case, I was able to, for the most part, do exactly what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I added those all together, and it came out to, and it's showing 1,500, but I actually had 2,000 damage. And the claim of a filthy hacker. So, a great example, I think, right there of a certain level of skill versus a lower level of skill is indistinguishable to that lower level of skill from hacking. That's a vanilla gameplay. If you found anything in there where I was hacking, please let me know, because I'm going to have to remove it if that's actually in there. The only hack I used was skill.exe. Skill.exe. And it can often look like hacking. All right, guys, thanks for coming by on this coffee talk. That's all I've got for today. I got to head out on vacation. That's it, man. Thanks for supporting the channel. As always, throw me a sub, throw me a like, a follow, whatever it is, and we will see you.